later to Nairobi for that latest on the mall siege with our own Catherine Norris-Trent. Yes, it's time for the France 24 debate. It's the day after in Germany where a nation, dare we say it, a continent, has eyes but for one woman.
Heute wird gefeiert, ab morgen wieder gearbeitet. Ab übermorgen. Also,
better be careful. After tomorrow will be here faster than she thinks for Angela Merkel, who before embarking on a third term faces, well, first the formality of picking a coalition partner. With 41.5% of the vote, the Christian Democrats almost didn't need an alliance. Gone from parliament for the first time since the war, the centrist Free Democrats raising the prospect of another grand coalition with the Social Democrats. Now Merkel may be promising to stay the course on her Europe policies, but in many parts, like Greece, they're hoping that now that campaigning is all over and done, all comers can come clean over the real price of austerity. With our panel, we'll also test the success of the German model domestically, as our correspondents take you to the former East German city of Leipzig, and of course, to Berlin, where France 24's Robert Parsons is standing by. He'll be bringing us the latest in a moment. Today, in the France 24 debate, the secret of Merkel's success. With us from Stuttgart, CDU member of the European Parliament, Ingeborg GRÄSSLE joins us. Thank you for being with us here in the France 24 debate. Here in the studio, Ulrike KOLTERMANN, freelance reporter. Yes, he's a German entrepreneur who hangs his hat in France. Jakob HAESLER, welcome back to the debate. Jakob HAESLER of high-tech startup Tinyclues. Economist Manuel MALEKI is with us as well, and so is GOLUB, who teaches at the American University of Paris. The France 24 debate, where you can join the conversation on Facebook and on Twitter, our hashtag F24debate. Now, even though it could take as long as 2 months to form a coalition, a smiling Angela Merkel made it sound like she had all the time in the world when she addressed reporters this Monday in Berlin.
Naturally, we're now open for discussions for a coalition. I had a first contact with the chairman of the Social Democratic Party, who asked of me, and I understand him completely, to wait for the convention of his party on Friday. This is normal, and it is the internal parties that have priority.
Rob Parsons in Berlin, a polite statement there, but you sense a tinge of smugness, perhaps, in her words.
Yes, François, smugness is not it. She couldn't keep the smile off her face yesterday. You know, it was remarkable. I think she was as surprised as anybody else, and the atmosphere in the CDU headquarters was astonishing. I felt, in a sense, that I was almost at a football match. They were all there punching the air, chanting her name, Angie, Angie. You know, so you can forgive her in a way for having a little smug smile on her lips.
A smug smile, Ulrike KOLTERMANN. It will take up to 2 months?
We don't know. It really depends on the SPD, because they will negotiate hard. They were in a coalition already with her, and it went well. But at the end of this coalition, SPD was really down. So 2009, they only had 23%, and voters sort of punished SPD that they have been the sort of lapdog for Angela Merkel. So this time they will try to negotiate very hard and get a lot of ministerial posts and maybe push through some reforms they had on their agenda.
All right, we're going to talk about those reforms a little bit later on. For now, though, again, it's one person in the limelight, Angela Merkel, Germany's best-selling newspaper Bild headlines Merkel's greatest triumph on its front page. There is this sense, Ingeborg GRÄSSLE, is it a complete triumph? It's a bit of a quirky system you have in Germany. She has nearly a majority in parliament, and yet it could be a tricky. This could be a little bit. There could be a little bit less elation once the real negotiating begins.
Yes, I think she's very well aware of the danger.
What are the telltale signs that she's aware of it?
I think she's very well aware of the dangers which has this result, because we need at least a partner. And what we see, we have the choice among two partners which are very far away from us. In all positions, we really need to come forward in the European politics, for example. The Greens and the Socialists want the contrary of what we wanted and where we got an overwhelming majority of people behind us yesterday. This is a major danger, and that's what we fear a little bit, because Angela Merkel, her secret is the confidence of the people. She does what people expect her to do, and now our coalition partners will try to convince us to do the contrary of why we have been elected.
I sense in your voice regret that the FDP didn't hit that 5% threshold.
Yes, I regret it very much. But at least what I'm happy about is to see that we have a very stable landscape of politics in Germany. We see that in other European countries where we have problems in the Eurozone, a lot of parties have arrived. But in Germany, we see that we can count on a certain stability. Therefore, it's now the responsibility of the Socialists and the Greens to form a government with us. I think Europe does not need a long hangover period. We need now to come to very close results as soon as possible. But we all know, and also Angela Merkel knows, and she knew it yesterday, that it will be very, very difficult.
That's an important point, Philip GOLUB. We see how in the US, even when you have a majority in both houses, you still have a hard time pushing through legislation. Here, we're talking about a grand coalition, and already people are talking about swallowing their pride. Germany is so different, not just from the United States, but also from its neighbors, Italy, France.
I mean, I think the point was made that, you know, the SPD, the last time it was in a grand coalition configuration with the CDU, lost a significant amount of its popularity because, of course, the lack of distinguishing characteristics between the political parties, the fact there's been a blurring of the boundaries between the political parties, ideologically speaking, creates a problem, in particular for the left-oriented social democratic parties in Europe. I think the real issue here, I think you can perfectly well have a grand coalition in Germany. And for domestic German politics, I'm not sure that poses a significant problem, although I'm not a specialist of domestic German politics. The real question, it seems to me, today is, and it's the question being asked, you know, behind the scenes everywhere in the world, from Washington through Paris, London, and elsewhere, and among intellectuals, is: does Germany actually have an idea of what kind of Europe it wants to have in the future? Germany is the preponderant economic power in Europe. It has the greatest political authority in Europe because of its economic preponderance, and yet Germany does not really have a European leadership policy. I'm not sure that the word leadership is something that the present German political class actually understands in a real fundamental sense of the word.
Does Angela Merkel have a plan? Is she somebody with a plan?
Well, depends on what you would call a plan. I think she's so far shown more a great tactician than a great visionary, and you could say that that's what she's all about. I think that the Grand Coalition, contrary to the coalition with the FDP, gives actually a better chance to establish a consensus around what Germany's role in Europe could be and should be. Because in those matters, there's probably more overlap between the SPD and the CDU than with the FDP. And the FDP actually got eaten up because the Alternative für Deutschland took away all those...
Eurosceptic party.
Yeah, it took away those among that typical voters of the FDP. And the FDP, because it was in the government, couldn't play out, so it was seen as being toothless, and in the end it couldn't do anything. And so I think that for Europe, the stability of the Grand Coalition is actually rather good news.
Okay, so but to answer Philip GOLUB's question, what is the plan that a Grand Coalition would have for Europe?
Well, I don't think they have one yet.
Yes, they don't.
Which is exactly what I think they have ideas about continuing, maybe muddling through, maybe a little less, but everything else. The strategy was so far not to have a grand plan. And the question is, can Germany afford not to have a grand plan for Europe? That's the real question.
You could say at least they know what they don't want to be. They don't want to have Germany to have a leading role. Germany does not want to be a leader, although they are a natural leader because of their size and their power. But someone put it like they don't want German Europe, but Europe with Germany at heart. So they will always be balancing. They want to be more like a role model than real leader.
Yes, but you see, just let me say that was Ulrike Beck who said that. Actually, the sociologist, Habermas, Jürgen Habermas, one of Europe's preeminent philosophers today, has, I think, quite rightly said that Germany, without quite realizing the political class, I mean, without quite really realizing it, is sitting on top of a European volcano. And I think that's actually true at this point, much more than most people actually think, in Germany, in France, and in other so-called core countries of Europe.
Ingeborg GRÄSSLE, is Europe a ticking time bomb that Germany's sitting atop of?
I'm astonished. We have a plan, of course, of Europe. We have next year's European elections. We need a new European Commission. We need a new European Commission president. There will be plenty of issues where Germany will show leadership and showed leadership in the past. And it's simply not really true that Germany is not interested in solving all these questions. We have an upcoming banking union which needs to be constructed in a very positive way. We have the question of the sovereign debts and the euro crisis, the countries with the euro crisis to solve. We have plenty of issues where Germany always showed not only solidarity but also leadership. Angela Merkel showed a lot of leadership, and I think a lot of European countries, they recognize that. Therefore, please forgive us that we do not really that we are not interested in going with troops somewhere else. We had very bad experiences in our history. Please understand that. But at least the big European questions are solved with the broad support of the of Germany towards the European Union.
Manuel MALEKI, seen from France, is Germany, to use the words of Ingeborg, has it shown over the past 5 years solidarity and leadership?
Oh, I think Germany will follow the same strategy, a mix between conditionality and austerity, which means that, with Greece, for example, they said, okay, we will bail out a new time, but we continue with reforms, with structural reforms, with privatization. And I think Angela Merkel will continue with the same strategy because it works.
I just came back from Greece a couple of weeks ago, and I visited Italy just before the summer. I was giving lectures in Italy. The actual real situation of people in these countries is something that cannot be encapsulated in abstract statements about debt, about restructurings, about bailouts, and so on and so forth. You actually have a situation in Greece of critical social emergency. In Italy, not quite so grave, but nonetheless quite serious. 37.8% youth unemployment. What I'm saying is that the perception that Germany is playing its role in Europe is a perception that perhaps some German politicians have. But in all of the arc of Southern Europe, which is facing very dire economic and social circumstances, that is not the perception. My fear is that nationalisms are building throughout Europe, that European politics is being renationalized because of these austerity policies, because of extreme conditionalities in some cases, and that we're actually heading towards very significant strains in the system if leadership, people in leadership positions, don't actually measure what's happening at this point.
Rob Parsons in Berlin, the conversation that we're having around this table about Germany, the reluctant hegemon, Germany, whether it's ready for the heavy lift should the Eurozone medicine fail. Is that the conversation that you've been hearing over the past 24 to 48 hours where you are?
No, to be perfectly honest, the conversation here over the last 24 hours has been one of astonishment. But the reason that Angela Merkel wants such a clear victory, but the reason we're asking the question, does Angela Merkel have a plan for the future? It's because she spent the last 2 months throughout this campaign studiously ignoring all the issues. Just the other day, when one of the CDU leaders was asked whether Angela Merkel has a vision, the spokesman said Angela Merkel doesn't do visions. Visions are for people who want to go to hospital. So that's been the attitude. And the problem is we don't really know whether Angela Merkel has a vision for Europe. We know that she wants a strong Europe. She believes that Germany should be part of Europe, that the Eurozone should be strengthened. But quite how she wants to get there, we don't really know, because she herself has studiously avoided making it clear to avoid being drawn into an argument which she might lose.
On the Guardian's website, by the way, they've launched the concept of European female leader trading cards. And if Merkel completes her third term, she'll have served longer than Britain's Margaret Thatcher. And this consensus around the table that Merkel's certainly a great tactician. Thatcher certainly was more of somebody who was interested in ideology. Ingeborg, what's your reaction to what Robert Parsons has been saying? How she's really playing her cards close to her chest, and she said again today that come what may, she's going to stay the course when it comes to Europe.
You know, the benchmark for Angela Merkel is not Margaret Thatcher. Forgive me, but it's Helmut Kohl. He stayed in office for 16 years. Therefore, there's still some way to go. Apart that, you know, Angela Merkel has a clear vision of Europe. As you said, you are completely right. The CDU and Angela Merkel want Germany to be part of Europe and Europe, the European Union, to be a successful part of the world. We want to regain leadership in the whole world, economic leadership. This means that the Eurozone crisis countries have to look after their competitivity. The conditionality, the help for conditionality is something very important, and the German people back this. This is the main reason why we got such a big victory yesterday, and it is a huge big victory. Since 20 years, our best result, imagine. Therefore, it's quite clear there are some red lines she cannot go through. The first red line is no euro bonds. The second red line is help for conditions. The third line is improve the competitivity of the Eurozone countries. You know, I want to say something about Greece. I would like to recognize the efforts done by Greece and the Greece government. But bear in mind, this year, at the end of this year, we have still 10 billion euros available for Greece, which are not yet put into projects. The European Union's budget has plenty of money for Greece. This year, 1.14 billion
and yet your
euros.
finance minister, Wolfgang Schäuble, has been saying that they're going to need another bailout.
You know, this depends on the assessment of the Troika. And this was just a way, relaunching the Greek question was a tentative of the socialists to put the euro question on the agenda of this campaign and to try the AfD, the anti-euro party, that it gets 5%. This would have meant that there is no chance of a majority for the CDU. And this strategy was at least successful.
All right.
The AfD got nearly 5%, and this was the result of the subjects our socialists put on the table about Greece. This was not very fair.
We're going to pick up on that point when we come back. Just on Twitter, you were right in saying that coal is the benchmark. And yet, this comment, the new Iron Lady of Europe, Merkel, I'm impressed. What men can do, women can accomplish better. We'll be back. It's the France 24 debate.